Welcome to the Cool Tools Show. I'm Mark Frauenfelder, Editor-in-Chief of Cool Tools, a website of tool recommendations written by our readers. You can find us at cool-tools.org. I'm joined by my co-host, Kevin Kelly, founder of Cool Tools. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, it's great to be here.
In each episode of the Cool Tools Show, Kevin and I talk to a guest about some of his or her favorite uncommon and uncommonly good tools they think others should know about. Our guest this week is Quinn Cummings, a writer of 3 books and numerous articles, the partner of one man, the mother of one woman, the caretaker of countless foster animals, and a lifelong fan of Mexican food. Hey, Quinn, how are you?
Thank you. I'm very well. Thank you for having me.
It's so great to hear your voice, and we're looking forward to the special things that you have in store for us.
Well, I will try to be almost worthy of you.
Well, Quinn, I'm a big fan of your Twitter feed. And so that's how I think I came across you and learned about you. And so I'm excited to hear about your products or your tools, I should say. Why don't we start by having you tell us about the Fitbit and what you're using it for?
I am the last person in the world to come to Fitbit. I think people have put Fitbits on their pets before I got to it because I know myself well enough to know I get a little obsessive about things. And I thought, I don't need to constantly be checking my step count. I'm boring enough as it is. But I have a fast resting heart rate, and it annoys me because I'm in good shape. And I just sort of feel like it's a flaw in my character. So I thought, all right, for 2000,
what is it? What is the?
It's right around 80,
okay,
which is perfectly normal, but a little on the high side.
Mm-hmm.
And I am exactly that persnickety that I thought, well, I'm not going to be a little on the high side. So one of my resolutions, I don't believe in them, and yet I do them every year, was, by God, I'm going to get that resting heart rate down. So I am chipping away at it. Again, might be the most boring reason anyone's ever gotten a Fitbit, but I am so happy with it. I want to be buried with it now, which will kind of defeat the purpose of it, I suspect.
Yeah, not too early. You want to be right. When you were shopping for the Fitbit, did you look at the different models? Did you select one over the others, or is it just sort of like you have the cheapest one?
What I tend to do with things is I sit on the idea for a very long time. I tell no one. And then in one day, it's like, well, by God, this is happening. So to the external eye, I appear to just randomly lunge out and do things. And all I can say is, damn it, there was a plan. And right after Christmas, there was a sale, and it was now at the price where I wanted it. I had a Target gift card. And I thought, all right, we're doing this. And I came marching home and said, there are 11 steps between the house and the garage.
So once you can monitor your resting heart rate, what kinds of things do you do to lower it?
It's counterintuitive, but the way I understood it is you have to move the heart rate up in order to get it to be. So to my confusion, I have now become a runner. I am a very bad runner. I don't like it. I feel sorry for myself. Not the least of which being because I have asthma. So it always hurts, and my brain is always nearly completely certain I'm going to die. But I take a class that is half on the treadmill, half Pilates. And by the end of it, I am wrung out. I wander out of class. I think that can't be doing me any good at all. But I'm down like 3 points in a month on my resting heart rate.
Wow, there you go.
So you're like in the high 70s now?
I'm in the high 70s now. I will not be happy until my heart is basically barely moving.
Well, you watch out. You may become normal.
Nah, that's a long ways from where I live.
Oh, wow, that's great. So Fitbit, yes. And a lot of people I have noticed these days aren't even using it to count steps or their heart rate, but are using it for sleep, for monitoring their sleep.
Yeah, I had problems with insomnia for the better part of 20 years. And I have finally found a medication that is non-addictive that works for me. So my attitude now is I don't think about my sleep because I'm afraid of breaking it.
Aha. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big cause of insomnia is worrying about not being able to sleep. I think that's
Oh
the
God,
number one
yes.
cause.
Yeah. Lying there and thinking this isn't going to end well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's my wife has really bad insomnia. What's the medication that you're
It is a prescription medication.
Mhm.
It is an antidepressant, but at it's called mirtazapine, one of
Mhm.
those two. But at one dosage, which is very low, it is a sleeping pill. No other dosage is it, but right there, it works for some people. I have tried everything on the market. This is the only
Mhm.
thing which has worked.
Metrazapine. That's great. Okay, cool. That's actually a good bonus tool for people to try once they get
And
approval from their doctor.
I am, yeah, I was going to say, and here I am to say, as I often do in my life, I know nothing. So don't, I
Yeah.
just take this with huge lashings of salt.
Right, yeah. Ask your doctor about metrazapine. Side effects
Exactly.
include bloating and death.
Yes, but you'll sleep right through it.
Yes, exactly.
Well, that's how I want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on, and this is appropriate because I mentioned Twitter, and that's how I found you. But Twitter is a tool as far as you're concerned, and tell us about how you use Twitter as a tool.
I think of it as well. The way I describe Twitter is I have a complicated relationship with it. I have issues with anxiety, which certainly have not been helped in the past few years, and Twitter for me is designed to both alleviate and exacerbate my anxiety. Um, I go to read the news, I become upset, I write some jokes, I feel better. I see that people write to me and say, "Thank you, I feel better." But on the other hand, I'm back to reading the news and now I'm getting anxious again.
It's a cycle.
It is a cycle, and I think it is designed to keep people just as anxious as I am, because that's what keeps you around.
And in your use of it, do you use any other tools? Like, do you have more than one stream? Do you follow certain kinds of people and have them segregated in some way to make it more sense out of it? Or are you just kind of like you're just mainlining it directly without any other apps?
I I tried some of the apps that were supposed to keep everything more organized. I found they did not work for me. I also found that one of them that I was using kept crashing my computer. And I thought, if you're going to keep crashing my computer, you should be cuter than this. And I mean, I came up in the dark ages where there weren't that many tools like that. So I'm just used to, well, the way I describe it is I'm like that bacteria that evolves to live in a septic tank. I don't recommend, if someone apologizes to me and says, "I'm sorry, I'm not on Twitter," I say, no apology necessary. Don't come. There is nothing to be gained from going there. If you're there, I hope to make it a little less Twitter for you. But if you're not there already, dear God, stay away.
Yeah, I think that's a good advice. Kevin actually, I think, handles Twitter in a healthy way by just being positive and posting to interesting things that don't give people anxiety.
Well, the other thing is I don't have it on my phone. I use the desktop version of it, which I find I have more, it's just easier to control.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, no. Everything you are saying is correct. I know it's correct because it's the exact opposite of what I'm doing.
Since
Yeah.
since we're talking about Twitter, why don't we go ahead and tell us a little bit about Small Story and how it's actually like a Patreon supported threaded tweet, which is pretty cool. And I think if you're not the only one, there's probably very few people who are getting Patreon supported threaded tweets.
Oh, well, thank you for asking. About a year and a half ago, I remembered a story out of my life, which was the worst day I've ever had in an office. And it had a fantastic punchline because I was an idiot. And it wasn't like I created a great story. I was an idiot, and then a story grew up around it. And for 7 years, I wrote a blog back when one did such a thing. I had missed writing short stories, which is what those were. But nobody's going to blogs anymore. And I thought, I'd love to tell this story. Is there a way of doing it on Twitter? And I thought, you know what, let me see if people will have the interest to read a short story through a series of threaded tweets. The story did well. The last time I checked, I think it's been retweeted 47,000 times.
Wow.
I was really an idiot. I cannot stress this enough. It was, as if you're going to be that stupid, people are going to come. When you set yourself on fire, people will come to look. But I got such satisfaction out of writing that I gave myself the task of, all right, try writing a short story about your life at least 4 days a week and see what that feels like. And I did that, and people were retweeting it, and people were following it. And I think I doubled my followers in 90 days. I mean, people were responding to a longer format, which anybody who understands Twitter would have assured you wasn't going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I would have promised you wasn't going to work.
Right.
But people miss stories. People miss humans. And hearing about somebody's life is very human. So I did the first story in November, end of October, beginning of November. By January, I said to the people following me, if I were to create a Patreon account where the stories on here will be free. You can give me $1 a month if you like the stories. But if you want an extra story a week, the Patreon level would be $5. Would you be interested? And a bunch of people said, yes, I would. And I thought, a lot of people are going to say they're interested, whether they follow through. It doesn't hurt to try it, but I have very realistic expectations of this. And I am pleasantly shocked to say that it has become steady.
And how do the people who have paid the Patreon extra get those extra stories? Are they being emailed them, or?
Yeah. Yes, it's MailChimp. I just send it as a short story. The interesting thing to me is that I'm trying to remember, because of MailChimp, you can see how many of them are opened.
Right, you have an open rate.
You have your open rate, and the open rate runs between 71 and 75%.
That's excellent.
That's excellent, but I still think, I feel as if about a quarter of them are doing this just to support the other work. And I'm grateful. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm ecstatic. But I think, I wonder if this is just their way of saying, I don't need any more work in my life. I don't need to read anything else. I'm grateful you do this. To which I say thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think humor, lightness, human contact, human situation will never get boring, and people will always forever want that in their lives. So it's a great position to be in. I'm really glad that you've got this working. So the Patreon. So if people go to your Twitter site now, they can get all your short stories for free. If they want extra dose of you, they can go to Patreon and get something by email.
Exactly. And at the end of every day's story, I put up a link to Patreon.
Okay. And are you capable of still producing a story every 4 days, or 4 days a week?
I am hitting at least 4 days a week. Some
Wow.
weeks 7.
Wow.
I screw up a lot.
Do you ever do something like, I'm not even going to try really hard because it'll make a good story?
There's not a point where I think, well, if I let this screw up, then I will have a story. At some point, I realize I am dragging a trampoline through the mall in a box oh, this is going to be my story for the day.
Yeah, right,
It just shows up.
right, right. Okay.
That's great. Um,
Yeah.
so your next one is about your interest in mixology, and I just have to say that um, I bet you go to a place called Barkeeper in Silver Lake.
Yes, I do. If I wasn't, thank you for. I love Barkeeper so much. If you are in Los Angeles and you have not been there yet, if you have any interest in making a cocktail or making a cocktail better, I cannot recommend them enough. It's a small store that if you are a mixologist, everybody knows. They have a deep bench. They have a floor to ceiling open cabinet of just different kinds of bitters. It's
It's amazing.
it's amazing. It's so much fun.
Yeah, we'll put a link to Barkeeper in the show notes.
Great.
That's really great. You know, I wanted to kind of go back one step to your story thing and ask, like, do you have any tools for someone who wanted to be funnier than they were?
Okay, that's a really good question. And oddly enough, somebody asked me when we were at some point, somebody brought me in and was saying, okay, here are different ways you can monetize your brand. And already I'm getting a headache because it's like, you're making me feel dirty. But one of the things she said was, can you teach people how to be funny? And I looked blank and I said, I don't I don't think so. What I think you can do is teach people to start noticing things which are unlikely. When I first started writing jokes on Twitter, this was I have always written funny, but I have never written funny in a very condensed format. So I would look at a bit of the news and I would think, okay, where is the weak point? Where is the weak point in this story? Because comedy comes at the flexion point. If okay, pick an obvious one. Someone who has been married 4 times and constantly stepped out on his wife, decrying somebody else's fidelity, is hypocrisy. You can't just, if you point at him and shout hypocrite, that's not funny. That's just noticing. If you can come in it at a slant, if you can find a way of reframing that in a way that people aren't expecting to hear. Comedy is anticipation mixed with uncertainty. In the oldest comedy movies, you would see the guy walking down the street towards the open manhole, not paying attention. You know something's going to happen. You don't know how.
Right.
Right. So
I think that's where comedy comes.
so you're actually right now teaching me how to be funnier. So you can teach it, right?
There's a question that comes up on Twitter a lot about where is the Republican or the conservative equivalent of the Daily Show? Why are most people making jokes about comedy tending to trend to the left-hand side? Because if you are conservative, at least in the way that it used to be, you are invested in maintaining the status quo. There's nothing funny about maintaining the status quo. Comedy is anarchy.
That's interesting.
Now, if you can be, all right, Rick Wilson, who's a political strategist, who is old-fashioned small c conservative, is very funny because he is anarchistic. He will say what he likes.
Mm-hmm.
And to watch him is to start laughing because he has no fear of the consequences of his words. If you are a person invested in everything staying the same, you're not funny.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be.
All right. Okay. Well, so if you do think of, before we're done, if you think of like a book or a tool or a site or something that you have seen that helps people become better at this, I would love to hear about it. I wasn't really asking for a lesson, but which I just got, which is really fantastic. But I'm wondering if there was a kind of, if you in your encounters had ever seen a person or teacher, a book, a website that actually had some good suggestions about this.
Okay, I'll tell you one thing that's here in Los Angeles. A lot of stand-up comics are doing a side hustle where they teach stand-up comedy. Most are no good, because at most they're going to give you, they're not good. There is a teacher, a comic by the name of David A. Arnold, who teaches, the class is called The Art of Stand-up Comedy. And he has an instinctive understanding of how to point people in the right direction. You can't teach comedy, but you can open people's minds to the idea of where comedy may be in their lives.
Okay.
I mean, the thing I just said to you doesn't change how you say something, but it makes you look around in a slightly different way. That's all any good comedy teacher can do. That's the most they can do.
Okay. Well,
So,
thank you.
a lot of it is about noticing.
Right.
Oh, all of it is about noticing.
Right. And that's something, noticing is just something we all should do more of, whether you want to be a comedian or not. So it seems as if, like, if you learn how to notice better, even if it really didn't make you funnier, it'll at least make you a better person.
Yes. God, yes.
Right. That's good. So just in the interest of time, because we have to wrap up in a minute, I just wanted to get around to your last tool, something I'm a huge fan of, and it is the tile. Tell us about the tile.
Oh, I think if you did a sound chart or one of those of all the words that a person says, the sentence that would be in the middle of mine is, "Where are my keys?" And I understand all the "we'll put them all back in the same place." Just shut up. If I could do that, I would do it. And the tile has given me back a certain quality of life. I mean, do I know where my keys are? No, but I will in about 35 seconds. I love my tile.
So describe the tool for those who aren't familiar with it.
The tile is a small square, white plastic square that you attach to objects or put into objects. I have one in a side pocket of my purse, and it is an app. And you can go to the app and you can say, "I can't find this object," and the app and the tile will start singing at you. And then you can find it. And if you can't hear it, you can look on the app and it will show you, "Hey dummy, it's in your car," which is when I learn a lot.
So the tile unit itself has a GPS in it, so it knows where it is.
Oh, you think I know this? God bless him. Consort does all this stuff for me. As far as I'm concerned, this is witchcraft. It's just happy witchcraft.
It's a Bluetooth connection to your phone. Low energy Bluetooth connection, and one of the not really a drawback, but just a thing that you have to realize is that you need to keep the app always active on your phone. So you open it once on your phone, and then you just don't quit out of it, and it maintains that connection. But they do it in a really energy efficient way, so that the tile typically lasts well over a year before you need to replace the battery. And if you get if you can pay a monthly fee, and you get all sorts of bells and whistles, including a free battery sent to you every year. Well, not free, but it's just included, so that you just pop in a new battery every time. And the reason I know about this is because I have tiles on everything, and it has saved my butt on multiple occasions, including like losing my wallet in a theater a couple of months ago. And I walked into the empty theater and played it, and I heard the chirping sound, and there it was wedged between two seats, and I would have been impossible to find otherwise.
That sound is the sound of happiness to me. That is the sound of problems being solved.
Yeah.
And do you need to have a subscription, or is that just an option?
No, you don't. I'll bet Quinn doesn't have a subscription, right? I mean, it's not really useful.
I cannot stress this enough. I am convinced this is witchcraft.
Right.
Yeah, it works fine without it. With it, you get enough bells and whistles from me that it was worth getting it. Quinn, this has been a blast talking to you. What's the best place people can go to find out about your Twitter feed, Small Story, should they just go to quinncummings.com? Is that where
They can
everything is?
they can go to quinncummings.com, and you can always, and I mean always, find me on Twitter at Quincy, QUINNCY.
That sounds great. Quinn, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey everybody, it's your co-host Mark, and I wanted to let you know that we have a lot more going on here in Cool Tools than just this podcast. We have our flagship website where we review a new tool every day. That's at cool-tools.org. We also have 4 different newsletters. We have this podcast. We have a YouTube channel where we review tools. And if you like what you hear and see and read, the best way to help us out is by going to our Patreon page at patreon.com/cooltools and donate at any level you wish. You can even contribute $1 a month, and that would mean a lot to us. The money that you give us will go towards paying for our transcribing costs, editing videos, and editing the podcast. It goes towards paying contributors who write the reviews for us. It goes towards our equipment costs, our hosting costs, and it supports our very small company of 3 people. This week, I wanted to give a shout out to some of our Patreon supporters who have been giving us at least $2 a month. And if you give us $2 a month, we'll give you a shout out online. And this week, I would like to thank Michael Sakochia, Molly Starr, M. Velderman, Opposable Thumbs, Pamela Cooley, Patrick Weyer, Paul Hosey, Randy Fisher, Stuart Burrows Brand, Synaptic Sam, Therese Schwartz, Tom Hawkins, Tom Markham, What Bear, Javier Pangolin, David Lang, Eric Byers, Sean Hartley, Stephen Powell, Greg Lichtscheit, John Hobson, Adam Bristol, Adam Naher, Anonymous, Bill Kempthorne, Bruce I. Niles, Chris Woodruff, C. Kolos, Daryl Flynn, Egg Fleegoff, Eric Hanschrau, Eric Hoover, Godfrey Saldana, Jay Skiles, John M. Larson, Jude Galligan, Kenneth Gilman, and Lucas Frank. Thank you very much for supporting the show, and we will see you next week.